Misty, and I'm on the Suburban Edge. Welcome. The Suburban Edge is the place between the city and the country, and I'm going to share some modern homesteading tips for you that you can do whether you live in an apartment or on 40 acres of pristine farmland. Today, I'm working on several projects. I purchased this Herkin bag, 25 pounds of black beans, and I'm going to can them for you. And before we can them, I have to sort these beans. I'm not canning all 25 pounds, but I will talk about what we're going to do. We're going to can 8 pounds, and the rest, you do the math. I don't know what the difference is there. I could figure it out, but I'm not going to. The rest we're going to put in mylar bags for long-term storage. I also got some flour for Christmas. Awesome Christmas gift. But we're also going to put that flour in mylar bags. Well, now I'm going to just sort these beans. The bag says triple washed. Don't believe them. This is an agricultural product. You're bound to find some rocks and other weird things. So be sure to look through your beans. The worst thing you could do is can a rock and then feed it to your family. So don't do that. I'm going to I have a nice clean counter here, and I'm just going to sort the beans right on the counter. I'm just going to spread them out and look for any broken ones or rocks. I'm going to do that for all 8 pounds, but I'm pretty sure your time is more valuable than watching somebody sort beans. So I'm going to sort these beans. I'm going to put them in this pot right here, and when I have that all done, we will come back. Okay, so that was a lot of beans. My son Liam helped me, and we had a lot of beans on the floor because these guys are really rolly. So that was fun, and we had a lot of laughs. But you can see I needed 2 pots. Once you get your sorted beans, and I'm happy to say we had 0 rocks, but there were some ugly ones, and you're canning these, so you want your best beans. Put your best bean forward. We went ahead and put water in this. You just want to fill it up with water. It's going to sit for 12 to 18 hours. And that means you won't get to see me until tomorrow, because it's the evening right now, and I will come back and talk to you about next steps tomorrow. Hi, it's the next day, and I don't know if I made a newbie mistake, but I'm gonna go for it. Those 2 pots, beans swell, right? So those 2 pots were not enough to handle the swellage of the beans. So I had to have my trusty Mark go get this big 20-quart stock pot for me, and I've already rinsed and drained my first pot of beans and put them in here, and this is my second pot of rinsed and drained beans, and so we'll just dump them in there and put fresh water over the top to cover. And I'm taking this out of the Blue Book of Canning. If you're just starting canning, it's literally all you need, and it says 2 1/4 pounds of dried beans per quart. And when I took a look at these beans this morning, I was like, wow, Misty, that's a lot of beans. So it may work out, or I may be canning for the next 3 days. I don't know. But the thing is, I'm going to use these beans. Check out this little tiny clip I made last night. Yes, I have an Instant Pot. And yes, I can cook the beans from dry. But here's the problem. I do that. I cooked these black beans, I put them in my freezer, then I forgot to take them out, and now I'm dealing with a frozen block of black beans for dinner. Canning is going to make my life much more convenient. First I rinsed and drained the beans. Then I put them in my handy 20-quart stock pot. Now, of course, you don't have to can this many beans. You do what you're gonna do, but apparently I'm canning a lot of beans. So they're in my 20-quart stock pot right now, and I covered them with cold water up to above 2 inches. So 2 inches above the beans, cold water. And I have them on the stove right now. And the ball instruction book and also the book that came with my canner, they say the same thing. They say to get the beans boiling for 30 minutes. And I'm guessing that's not a really hard boil, but you need to bring it up to boil, and then I'm probably going to turn it down to more of a like, I don't want it burning on the bottom. So I have my big stick, I'll go over there and stir it occasionally, but right now I'm just going to get it boiling, and that's what I'm working on. But while that's going, that's a great time to get your jars and lids and rings washed. Get yourself set up for the next step in the canning process. I'm going to take a minute. Mine are already washed. I'm going to take a minute and share some stuff with you. First of all, dry beans versus canned beans. Canned beans are incredibly convenient. I cook beans from dry all the time if I plan ahead. But if I'm wanting to throw something together, I sure find myself wishing I had a can of beans on the shelf. So my goal this year is to get myself set up with all my favorites. Why not just buy it in a can, you're asking? Well, I went to the store yesterday and I looked at the prices of things. And canned beans, you can get them for as cheap as 99 cents on sale for a can. Now, that seems really cheap at first blush. Now that you go up in name brand, like if you do store brand, which I typically reach for store brand, but as you go up in brand names, they can be like $2.50 a can, $2.99 a can, I saw yesterday. Which, wow, that's a lot of money. If you factor in for that same $2.99, you walk a little bit down the aisle and get 1 pound of dried beans, that's also $2.99. The difference is that pound of dry beans will make about the equivalent of 3 cans. So if you're looking to save money, dry beans, learning how to cook and process and deal with dry beans it's a game changer. The other thing is you can choose to add salt and other spices or not, but the economics of purchasing dry beans is, for me, that's my happy place, right? I'm saving money. So this 25-pound bag of dried beans cost me $25. So for $1 a pound, I'm in. And that's why I bought so many. Buying in bulk, great. Now, if you live in an apartment, buying in bulk may not be what works for you, but you can get 1 pound bags of dried beans on sale and cook them in your Instant Pot. Pressure cook them, freeze them. If you have an Instant Pot that pressure cans, well, you could cook your beans like I am and pressure can 1 or 2 cans of beans. And in the long run, you're saving yourself so much time. You're cooking things the way you want them to be cooked. It's just an overall, in my opinion, healthier way to go. Generally, a pint of home canned beans is a little bit more, but about the equivalent of a can of beans. And for me, I'm going to use it like 1-to-1. If I find a recipe that calls for a can of black beans, I'm going to rinse and drain my home canned beans and use that. Okay, so I'm sitting down. I get tired. I wanted to get my tea, check my beans, and talk to you about this. So this pressure canner was given to me probably 20 years ago by my grandmother, Leonetta. And when she was getting ready to retire from canning, she gave me all of her canning supplies, and I have been using them. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the legacy of that, and also about this Harvest Gold canner from November 1975 is when this was manufactured. I have been absolutely terrified of this canner. When I got it, of course, the rubber seals were dry. The little vent pin here is bent at an angle. I never pressure canned a thing in my life. And I've water bath canned all my life. My mother taught me. I've done it solo. I've done it with her. I've done it with my kids. I'm so comfortable with water bath canning. But I decided at the beginning of last year that pressure canning was my next thing that I was going to master. I was going to figure it out. And I had this pressure canner sitting in storage, gathering dust, and just so terrified of it. And you might be the same. And I wanted to get a new canner. I just didn't want to deal with this one. I wanted a brand new one. And then about 9 months ago, well, exactly 9 months ago, I was faced with a health crisis. I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and yeah, you thought maybe this was by choice. But you and we can watch my hair grow out together. Who knows what it's going to look like? I hear it comes back different. But in the last 9 months, I have had 4 major surgeries. I have had 9 weeks of chemo. I still get infusions every 3 weeks and will for the next 7 or 8 months. So learning to can in that year has been challenging, and this was not something I was ready to tackle. But this makes me think about my grandmother's legacy. When I got all her canning jars, and they're heavy and old, and they look different, and they're not like today's canning jars, and I still use them. In fact, I reach for those first. When I go to my canning stash, I dig for those. I love using them because when I make my grandma's pickles or I make jam with my mom, my grandma, she's right there in the kitchen with me. So I had all this downtime last year. I had a lot of time to think about lifespan and legacy and what I want to leave for my kids. So we just don't know how much time we have. And I've had so much time to reflect on that very thing. And I wanted to build this YouTube channel for my kids and their kids and anybody else that might feel intimidated or just might want to learn some homesteading type skills. And we can learn them together. And we can grow together. And I'm really excited about it. I'm kind of emotional right now because this isn't something that is easy for me to talk about. When I went through the bulk of it, I really kept my diagnosis, I kept my journey to myself. But I learned a lot of really amazing lessons in the last year. One of them is batch cooking, stocking that freezer up before that next surgery, making sure my family was fed when I was feeling good, really getting the work done so that when I wasn't feeling good, my family could still eat. My husband could easily throw something in the oven and they were eating great home-cooked meals. They felt my love, and I felt like I was still productive even when I was in bed for a week or 2. So that's a little bit about me and legacy. So just know that I may get emotional and I'm gonna be real with you, but mostly I just want to have fun and make friends along the way and give something to my kids. I want to leave this for them. And maybe your kids too. I don't know. So we're going to move on. So today I took a real good hard look at this, and it's the first time I've ever looked at, I'm going to call her Nettie. It's the first time I ever looked at Nettie, and I realized, oh my word, I understand this machine. And it's because, well, it's not a pot. It's not a machine. It's a pot. I understand this pot. And it's because when I wanted to learn how to can, I went and got the digital Presto Digital Canner. I felt like it was more approachable. I felt like I could handle it. And I do a lot of small batches. It was perfect for my lifestyle. And it has been perfect for my lifestyle. But I took a peek at this and I realized I understood all the parts because I cook in my Instant Pot. I can in my digital pressure canner. This, all of a sudden, I was like, I understand this pot. But I also understood things were wrong. So I called the Presto company in Wisconsin. I talked to the most charming person, and she explained how I would find the model number. I had to scrub the bottom to find that. She explained to me what all the numbers meant, and then she walked me through, like held my hand all the way through all the parts I needed, because I need a new gasket and I need a new pressure pin gasket, whatever that's called, and I need a new venting valve because this one obviously got dropped. It's broken, so it needs to be replaced. She walked me through how to convert this to a different type so I don't need to rely on this. And she walked me through how to replace the gaskets, how to do a water test. She was so much information. So for about $60, that includes shipping and taxes, I am getting a new canner, a new old canner, and I can't wait for the day that I can something in Nettie here. And I think that my grandmother would just be thrilled. We are going to deal with beans, and I am going to store them in these mylar bags. And I have a whole bunch of different sizes, just like the ends. And I have two here. I really like the ones with the Ziploc bag on the Ziploc sealer, but you can also buy them without. What I like them for is that I'm often doing mylar bags alone. So I typically buy the ones that are gusseted on the bottom so they stand up on their own, and I can half zip these, and I'll show you that later, because when you go to put in the other part, you need to move pretty quickly. But I did want to show you that this bag is recycled. This was a Ziploc bag. We used it. It's been washed out. I just wash it out really good and let it dry, and then you can just use them over and over again. This has been cut a little crazy, so I'm going to just trim that off. And you can literally just keep using the bag until it becomes impractical to use it, then you toss it. But these are great for long-term storage. I, as a homemaker, can do this very easily. So I can buy things in bulk and then store it for 10, 15, 20 years. Now, this does not protect from rodents. I will still need to put these bags into a rodent-proof tote, a 5-gallon bucket. You do need to plan for that. Okay, so before I got everything assembled here, and before we get into it, I did want to talk a little bit more about these mylar bags. I like to buy my mylar bags from a company called USA Emergency Supply, and don't buy anything thickness-wise less than 5. When I first started, I bought a bunch, just mylar bags, and I didn't know anything about the thickness, and I tried to save rice, and the little rice kernels poked holes in the bags. So yeah, that didn't save me any time or preserve my food, because I ended up trying it again and again, and then finally I'm like, it's the bags. I know you can put your rice in a bag and then put it in the mylar bag, and wow, I don't want to do that. I just want to put my rice in a bag and have rice. So that you need mylar bags and you need oxygen absorbers, and they usually come in these big packs. My local Winco sells these, which I love, and they have a little pink dot on them. If it turns blue or purple, it means this is no longer viable. This is no longer going to suck oxygen. And before you get started, you will need an empty jar, because if you don't use them all, you can pop them in the jar really quick, you know, close the lid really tight, and it should suck the oxygen out of that jar and pop the lid down. I have a jar that I labeled 500 cc. It's quite full. Do you hear that? It didn't suck the lid down. So I don't trust these now. If you go to USA Emergency Supply and other places online, you'll get charts. So what I like about their chart is it's really easy to understand. They give you the bag sizes. And when I'm recycling, I have to kind of figure out what bag I have, because this might not be a standard size anymore. And it will tell you if you're using pasta and beans, or if you know, like something with a lot of places for air to still be. You may sometimes need more oxygen absorbers than if you're using something dense like flour. So I'm using beans. So because I have what's called chemo brain, and it's a real thing, I literally wrote the sizes and the size of the bag and how many cc's of oxygen absorbers I need for my beans, because I don't want to keep looking at that. I just want to look at the bag, and there's so many different bag sizes here. I thought that would be the most efficient. So my beans are kind of starting to get foamy on the top, and they're simmering. I'm gonna just pop over there real quick and pop back, and then I think we can start doing this. Now the other thing you're gonna need is a regular old clothes iron, or I went to the Goodwill and I got this really great hair straightener, and I liked this one because there was like about 15 to choose from. It was about $6.99. This one has a little dial on it and an on-off button and a little green light, so I like this one a lot, and it served me really well. And I keep it at about 350 degrees. I'll link USA Emergency Supply down below. Again, I'm not an affiliate, I'm just a fan, and I'm just trying to make it easier for you. And before you fill your bags, it's really a good idea to write what's inside. And I like to write the date. So I'm just writing black beans and today's date, which I believe is, oh my goodness. And I don't know how many, because I have such an odd assortment, I don't know how many bags I'm going to fill up. So I'm going to do them one at a time. And I need to remember to leave enough room. See, I like the gussety ones. They stand up on their own. I need to remember to leave enough room to get that seal on there. So I leave about 2, maybe 2.5 inches from the top so I can get that closed and not fight it. So I am going to fill up my bags. That's just about at the limit of something I can carry. I'll come back when the bags are filled. Okay, well, there are black beans all over my floor because I got tricky and tried to like pour the bag in, and yeah. So I'm gonna sweep in a second, but I wanted to show you where I got to. So this one, the only other bag I had was a full gallon, and then I had this little 1/4 gallon, and it didn't work out for me to have I couldn't use this, and the other ones were too big. But this one is slightly too big as well, and I don't know if you can see in there, but the beans come to right about here, and you do want to shake them down, and that's a lot of extra air space, so that might cause me some trouble. So even though I love the Ziploc on this one, I'm going to cut it off. You don't want to have a ton of air in there to begin with, because that just means you need more oxygen absorbers. But what I love about the Ziplocs is you can kind of zip them halfway and then stick the oxygen absorber in and zip it the rest of the way. And if you're working alone, it helps you move very quickly. Another little hack you can do is I like to seal this halfway and just leave an opening for the oxygen absorber so that it's not trying to suck all the oxygen. It's hard for me to say oxygen today. It's not trying to suck it out of the room. Like, you can kind of confine your absorber to where you want it to be. And, whew, that's hot. So I just basically sealed it and left a little tiny opening, and I'm going to shove them in there and kind of crimp it over, and that will just help it while you're doing the other thing. For me, I like this little hack. It makes me feel like I don't have to rush as quickly. I'm obviously not doing like 8 50-pound bags of beans either, but I like to get as much air out of it as possible and then keep as much air out of it as possible. I don't know, makes sense to me. So that's what I'm doing right now. And it doesn't take much to get that sealed. You can really tell it's sealed. You can tell by looking. So don't be afraid to approach it if it's something you're interested in. It's really easy. Now, what I wouldn't do, again, is invest in 5-gallon bags. My first package was like a kit, kind of, and it came with like, I don't know, 10 5-gallon bags. I can't lift a 5-gallon bag of something that's like a 50-pound bag of beans. So, like, it was a lot. And I still have them. And I'm constantly wondering, like, what am I going to do with these 5-gallon bags? Now, if you have a family, a huge family, and a lot of helpers, it might be the thing you need. But for me, I'm like the half-gallon person. Like, when I want to get some rice out of storage or some beans, I don't want to make that 5-gallon investment. Because once you open the 5 gallons, then what are you going to do? You got to reseal it. I don't know. It just wasn't my jam. So I have all of this, and all I have left is this little tiny hole. So now is the part where I have to move quickly. And since I wrote on the bottom of my bags, half-gallon size, these are all about the same size, so they're all going to need 400 cc's, and I only have 300 or 500. Well, I don't want to do 2 300s because now we're up to 600, so I'm just going to pop a 500 in there, and I'm going to throw these away, sadly, because I just feel like they should have sucked that lid down. So I have a new jar labeled 500 cc. Yeah, this is a brand new lid. I didn't even recycle a lid. So it should be fine, and we're going to open this up, and I'm going to put one in each thing, and then the rest I'm going to pop in this jar quickly because I don't want to throw them away again. That was sad, but yeah, so here we go. And I'm going to keep this little guy. So I just need 3 of these. The rest are going in the jar. Come on, get in the jar. See, it's already turning purple, which is no bueno. Maybe could have made that one a little bit bigger. And you want to squeeze out all the air. And then I'm going to come back and just seal up that little middle part. And then I'll show you later what you're looking for in your sealed bag. Ooh, squish out the air. Squish out the air. And there you have it. That's it. So they're going to sit for a while, and you'll start to see them sucking down. Have you ever bought like a brick of coffee that was all hard like that, or yeast that comes in really hard, but once you cut it, it pops open? Well, that's kind of what you're looking for here. You're going to start seeing the shapes of beans coming through this packaging. So I'm going to set it aside here. Here's my flour that I got for Christmas. They spent about a week in the freezer, and I am just going to put them in this one bag. My beans are simmering. I put them on a timer, so we have just enough time to accomplish the flour project. Now I can actually just stick them in the bag, but that's not how I want to do it. I want to open the bags because, like, for one thing, I didn't wash this, and it was at the store or wherever it came from. So I want to get rid of the plastic bag it came in, and hopefully this won't go the way of the black beans and end up all over my floor. There are some things that are great for storing in mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, and there are some things that are terrible. You don't really want to do things like nuts. That would not work out. Things that might go rancid, like brown rice. Now, I've heard people doing brown rice. I've never tried it, but most of the research I've done says no. Also, sugar. I store my sugar in glass jars. You don't want to put an oxygen absorber in sugar. It will turn it into a literal brick. You could probably build a house with it. And yeah, that would be terrible. So I'm just pounding this down because I need to have that room to close it. But a 1 gallon bag fit these are 5 pound bags. So a 1 gallon bag fit 10 pounds. I said I had 2 10 pound bags, but that's not correct. That's bad math. I had 2 5 pound bags. So 10 pounds is a great amount to grab, especially if you're baking. So this will be my backstock. So I wrote on a Post-it note, which fell on the floor, 400 cc's if it's flour, and if it's a smaller one, and 500 if it's flour or beans if it's a gallon. So I have a 500. We're just gonna throw it in. Hey, it sucked down. So that's what you want. You want that little button to pop down. I feel really good, even if this disc turned blue, because the disc turns blue because it's exposed to air, but I know this worked, whereas the other stack of 500s, this button never popped down. So this jar is actually sealed, and I may or may not get it open with my weak... Oh, I did. Okay, so I forgot my trick of sealing it, but you can get the Ziploc closed fairly quickly, which is so nice if your fingers work. Oh, and mine are. So yay for me. Okay, so now I'm just going to seal it. I squeezed out as much air as I could at the time. There's one 500 cc in there. And again, it's no big deal if it doesn't work out. You can just use your flour quicker or cut off this, take some flour out, and try again. It's a little bit of a learning curve, but you're not breaking the bank either. It's, you know, it's not a hard system to learn, and it's been very... I forgot to write on the bag. Hey, where's my marker? Yeah, writing on the bag before you fill it is so much easier, but this is just flour, so flour, AP flour, and the date. So that's our really quick storage project is done. Our back counter's getting full. I can definitely hear my beans going, so I need to make sure I'm stirring them a little bit, and I'm going to clean this up, and when I get back, we'll get our beans in the canner. Okay, so I'm getting set up to do the canning, and I picked these up off the counter where I threw them, and they're warm. And I'm kicking myself now because they were good, and they're active right now. So I wasted them. Oh well, that's how you learn. So I need to probably put a different lid on that jar or choose a different jar, but lesson learned. Just thought I'd share. I wasted these, which is a bummer, but I saved money on my beans. There's the win. Here's my Presto Digital Canner. I told the Presto lady today that it was the gateway canner for people who were afraid of pressure canning. And it really works for me, especially when I'm tired or I just have 2 or 3 things to can. So this takes 3 quarts of water, which I already put in, and it's got a flashing dial, so it says pressure can or boiling water can. Obviously, we want to pressure can these beans. You cannot water bath can vegetables that have a low acid content. Beans have to be pressure canned. I see this a lot in people's comment sections. Can I water bath can this? No, you can't, and you shouldn't. And there's a lot of science behind why. I'm not a scientist, but just what's the word I'm looking for? Just take it from me. You can't. And the instruction book that comes with your canner is a great resource about why. The Ball Blue Book of Canning. There's plenty of online scientists that will tell you why you can't. You do need to pressure can beans and veggies. Okay, so the next thing is I'm gonna say yes, I want a pressure can, and I'm doing pints, so I want this to be in for 75 minutes, and it's asking me how much time. So I'm just gonna rotate the dial till it's up to 75 minutes, and hit the advance or the little play button right here. Go, and it's gonna tell me to insert the jars. Well, my jars need to be filled half full of water, and this is room temperature water, a little on the cool side, and I'm going to try to match that. What this is going to do is heat my jars for me. So I have my jars in here. They are filled halfway with water, the same temperature water that you already have in here, and it holds 7 pint jars, wide mouth. I wasn't sure if that made a difference. I probably could have looked it up in my book, but I did not. So they're in there. All you need to do now is find the lid. I finded it. Put the lid on, and it's got pretty clear instructions to lock. You want the regulator off. It just pops right off. This is the regulator if you're not sure. And I like to just set it right next to. Then this gets closed like that, and the jars are in. So I'm just going to tell it, yeah, the jars are in. I'm going to push go. And it's going to tell me that it's warming the jars. And that's fine. I have 11 minutes left on my beans, and it's okay if I just turn the heat off and deal with the beans once my jars are ready to go. In the meantime, while that's happening, I'm going to clean up, gather my clean lids and rings, gather all of my canning supplies, and set myself up right here. All right, so Mark brought my beans over here, and I am ready to start filling the jars. All you need to do is turn the little green thing and open this up, and I know you can't quite see that, but if you have one of these, that's pretty self-explanatory. Take the lid off. I'm going to set it over here. And we're just going to do these one at a time and keep the jars in the canner until we're ready to fill. And you do not want to dump the water out in your canner. You want to dump it out in your sink, because you just need those 3 quarts of water. You're not water bath canning. You just need enough water to come up to pressure. So I'm just going to set my jar down on a towel. If you have like granite counters or whatnot, you do not want to set your hot jar down on a cool surface, because it could break and you could get a little crack in it and you not even know. So you need to put your canning funnel in. I don't have anything fancy. Maybe you have something fancier. Use what you got. And I try to scooch this as close as possible to the contents. Now the thing about these beans is they're not cooked. They are like still kind of hard. They're a little squishy, but that's what you want, because they will continue to cook in your canner. So if you cook them all the way and then you put them in the canner for an hour and 15 minutes, you're going to have black bean mush, which is not what you want for your convenience. So you're just going to fill this up, and you want about 1 inch of headspace. What's headspace? Well, headspace is that, oh, I went too far. I thought I was making jam for a second. It's that space between the top of your food and the rim of your jar. So there are measuring tools that you can get that can show you that you're about 1 inch in. So this is pretty good. That's about 1 inch. They will expand a little bit more. I mean, they've been soaking and they've been cooking on the stove, so they're not going to expand much more. But beans can be tricky, I've heard. And we're going to fill this up with warm liquid. I've heard people use the liquid that they've already canned with, which is probably fine. Not going to have enough liquid, so I have water on the stove getting warm. So we're gonna just grab that and we're gonna fill it up to an inch, sorry guys, an inch below the top. So that looks pretty good. So the next thing we want to do is get any air bubbles out. And you don't want to use a metal utensil, although I've seen people use like butter knives, but I would just grab a plastic one. But I have this handy dandy measuring tool. So it's hard to see, but here, I'll put it down here. On one end it's got the measuring parts, and on the other end it's just a flat little device. I asked for this for Christmas and I got it in my stocking. What I've been using before is a spatula, plastic picnic knife, that kind of thing. So I'm almost exactly an inch down. And I have a cloth here that has a little bit of white vinegar, and I'm just cleaning off that rim. I want to make sure there's no food there. When you're washing your jars, you want to inspect the edge, make sure there's no chips or cracks. Really look at the jar, make sure these are good to go. Now this is a two-part lid system. You don't need to heat up the lid. I was taught to heat it up to soften that rubber, but you really don't need to anymore. So I just put my lid on and we're going to go finger tight. Now that's a strange thing, finger tight, and this jar is hot. But how I do it is I don't go so it's so hard I can't open it. I just go until it just starts to tighten, and then I'm going to put it back in the canner, and then I'm going to grab my next one. So I'm going to go ahead and fill the rest of my jars. You don't need to watch me do that, and I'll come back for the next step. And I'm just loving having you on this journey with me. I am having the time of my life. So just want to let you know, thanks for sticking with me this far. I have all my jars filled, lids on in the canner. It's time to put the lid on and get the next step going. We're just going to put the lid back on. It makes, it's really easy. We're going to click down the little green thing and we're going to advance it to the next step. So this little arrow, I filled the jars, okay. And now it's going to say heating, and it's doing its thing. Again, you want the regulator off. It will literally tell you when it's time. So when this comes up to pressure, it will start venting. Vent out of this hole, the main vent, but it will also vent around this green thing. Don't panic, that's normal. It will vent for 10 minutes, and it will tell you venting for 10 minutes. And after that, it will start beeping at you, and it will tell you to put the regulator on. You're going to put the regulator on here, and if you look, it says vent, can, vent. You want the little dial pointing to canning. And that's after it's let out all the steaming for 10 minutes. And what that's doing is it's getting rid of, it's building pressure. And this is the same concept on a regular canner, which I did not realize until I started using, Little Canner 101. It is the gateway canner. I love this thing. But if I had Nettie all fixed up, man, I'd be canning in her today, because I have a lot of black beans to can. But I'm just going to deal with it. I'll be so happy when it's all done, and I'll have lots of convenience food on my pantry shelves. So my advice to you would be, do the math the right way, or have somebody who has working brains do the math. But I'm okay. We roll with our mistakes. It's hissing and spitting. It says it's venting right here, and it's got 3 more minutes. So I'll come back and show you how I put on the regulator. It's beeping and it's saying put the regulator on. That's a lot of hot steam. So you can pinch it on both sides. I just drop it on there and keep your fingers out of the way. And it's pointing to can. So now I'm going to just advance it. And it's going to start that timer. I don't know if you can see that it says 75 minutes. And there's a little icon with a little canner. And it shows steam coming out, and it says can. So 75 minutes. That's an hour and 15 minutes of time where I can clean. I can do other things. I really don't need to keep an eye on this. I'm not going to leave the house, but I don't have to sit here and adjust the stove. Another nice thing about this is I was canning in the summer, and I didn't have to heat up my whole house. It's pretty nice. Right now it says cool, and there's a little icon that's a little snowflake, and underneath it says cool, and a 10-minute timer started. It's on 7. Now when it's done, all the way done, and the little pin drops, just like there's a little pressure pin right here. Once it drops, it's safe to open and take the jars out because it's been on a cooling cycle for quite a while. So I will come back in 6 minutes when this is done, and I'll show you my beautiful jars, and then I will start my second canning project, which is more black beans. Check out my bean in the mylar bag. See how it all suctioned down? So that's what those oxygen absorbers do. And so there's no oxygen left in this. This is ready to go in a bin or a bucket, and next time I need black beans, I just go to my home grocery, my pantry, and get some more. But it'll be a while before I need black beans, so I'm really glad that I stored these for long term. Of course, I just missed turning the camera back on while it was beeping 10 times, but it does have a little check mark and it says it's done. So now I can just turn the green knob and lift that up, and I can start lifting my jars out. I can hear them making little noises. They look beautiful. I'm very excited to have some convenience foods at home. Very excited. And this is my first time pressure canning beans. I think it went really well, and I was so happy to spend this time with you, and I'm so grateful that you wanted to spend this time with me. Till next time.